Hello everybody, I am Uriel Omega, and I am here to talk to you about a very interesting subject today, but before I get into that, I really wanted to know, what do you guys think about me doing a little intro video, intro clip, right before this kind of thing, because I'm trying to do a few more little videos and stuff like that where I'm talking about things, reviewing or talking about past events or whatever, or theories. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll take a look. Anyways, so what I'm here to talk to you about today is a interesting role-playing game event that happened at one of my sessions. So I was running a Pathfinder 1st edition game set in the Warhammer Fantasy universe. Now, I had designed this campaign to be a mercenary-based campaign being run mostly in the Empire. Mostly because of the fact that a lot of my players were not always able to show up to events, so I had a good bit of players, but I usually only had like 3, maybe 4 players at a time. And being mercenaries, it allowed for players to drop in and drop out because it was more episodic with an overarching story and events happening that players would more so interact with. So, this one event, this one session, I ended up with about 6 players. 6 of my players showed up. So I had a elf druid, I had a human brawler, who looked like Fabio, a human rogue, a human witch, a halfling cleric, and an elf rogue. So 6 players showed up for this little game session. So all the players were in a tavern. Some of the players hadn't really actually met. Now all of them had played my campaign, but some of the characters hadn't met each other. But all my players knew each other. I misspoke there. So they were in the tavern, and this is sort of where I keep the little billboard poster board with the different kind of quests and things like that, animal hunts and raids and battle, like little bitty battle events that could possibly happen. And there were a multitude of NPCs. Now I had actually generated a multitude of NPC mercenaries who would sometimes be events. Sometimes they'd be competitors or maybe even helping them out. So one of my players, the elf druid, walks up to the billboard and looks at it, and then he starts looking around. So while he's looking at the poster board, he sees a quest for killing orc raiders. Okay, that's basically getting money per head. Okay, alright, that's interesting. So he looks around the tavern and he sees a familiar face, an NPC character who has caused trouble for him in the past. A bright wizard. For those of you who do not know Warhammer Fantasy, a bright wizard is just a wizard of fire magic. And he's sitting with his 2 buddies, a rogue and a fighter. Now, these 2, or 3 characters in total, have caused issues for this druid in the past. The druid has tried to take on a couple contracts, and one time he was hindered, and the other time he was flat out lost the contract. He lost a fight to them. And so he had a grudge. He had an axe to grind. So he decides to grab this contract and slams it down on the table in front of him, just says, "I challenge you. Whoever kills the most orcs wins." And it's like, okay, I didn't know what to do. I just thought it was interesting. It's like, oh, yeah, sure. It's like, so I was taken off guard. And it's like, he put down, I think it was about 20 gold. Okay, now my players don't have lots and lots of gold in their campaigns. I have a very specific system to where I try to keep them from getting massive amounts of gold until they get to higher levels when they can use it for larger grand scheme things. So I usually use gold in a very specific system to reduce it. So that's a good bit of gold right there. So if he wins, he gets 20 gold back. And then another player decides to say, "I bet 20 gold too. I bet 20, actually, wait, no, it wasn't 20 gold, it was 40 gold. Oh yeah, that got out of hand really quick. So another player put down 40 gold, and then another player put down 40 gold, and then we ended up with 3 versus 3. Okay, so we have a good bit of money in the pot right now, and then the other 3 players join in, and they're going to put down money, but they decide at first they're going to have their own little group over here and actually be competing against the other player groups. Like, okay, that's going to be interesting. And then they decide to put them all together. It's like, oh gosh. So all the players are putting in 40 gold. Yikes. And then I end up having to draw upon all the NPC mercenaries that I have in the tavern, including the three aforementioned NPC mercenaries, as well as another NPC that they had met before, which was a Kislevite, or basically Polish-Russian, rogue with a battle axe. He was strength-based, and he was also scary at that. We also had a dwarf who liked his crossbow, and we also had a warrior from Cathay. Basically, Warhammer Fantasy China, which is actually based off of a name that they used to call China a long time ago. Anyways, so this got really out of hand, and they decided to all go kill orcs. So I was over there while they're talking about the plans and how they're going to attack and all these other things. I'm over there quickly have to write down all these, like, this little map of all these huts and trying to figure out the orcs, and I'm rolling dice to figure out where all the orcs are, and I'm setting up this whole thing, because I was just expecting to have to, like, throw a few orcs out there for the party to kill, for 6 people to kill. Okay, well now I'm dealing with the fact that I'm dealing with 2 groups of 6 people going after these orcs. And they're just sitting over there while they're planning, looking at me, and they're laughing their bums off because they think it's hilarious. So I get everything done, and I get it done pretty quickly, and the players come in from the southeast while the NPC mercenaries come in from the west. Alright, so they start killing orcs, and other orcs randomly start coming out of the huts, and they lead a pretty good attack with the elf rogue, using his archery skills to shoot from afar. Meanwhile, the other characters kind of just go in and start stabbing things and punching things, and they're doing some pretty good damage. And the NPCs have started charging in, and they're charging into some of the huts and killing orcs in there, and just describing how you hear blood and screaming from, you see blood splatter coming out of the huts, and orcs screaming and stuff like that, and the players are really starting to get into it. Now, they do take some damage, and one of the orcs takes an arrow, and he nearly died from that arrow because it was max damage. It was like a critical shot, so he's injured, and he actually only had 1 hit point left. So he actually runs and hides behind one of the huts, and it's getting closer to the end of the game. But one of the players is now kind of like in the middle of a multitude of orcs. So that orc decides to run out, and he's going to try to take a pot shot at one of the players because he's kind of behind a couple more orcs, so he's a little bit protected. So he runs out, and I roll for his attack. He rolls a 1. So I roll again, just to see how bad his roll ended up. He rolled a 2. He tripped and impaled himself on his own javelin. Yeah. So we're kind of getting close to a close, and the 2 orcs that were actually at the end of the encampment, at the last little hut, the largest hut, they decide to get involved in the combat. But then a larger orc gets out of the tent. So now they're dealing with 2 larger orcs than the others, and 1 larger orc than them. They can tell this is the boss. So they start stabbing. Now, they are actually pretty much neck and neck, and they're just thrashing, and it's just enjoyable to actually see how well they're doing and how well the other group is doing, because it's actually a close fight. It's a nice friendly competition for them, where if they lose, they're not losing anything important, but they're losing a little bit of their own honor and respect to this. And I really loved how that turned out. And so it actually gets down to where they're killing the last of them. And if I remember correctly, the last orc standing was not even the boss. I'm pretty sure they killed the orc boss first. Or, yeah, the orc boss first out of those 3. Or second to last. But the last orc, if I remember right, was one of the 2 champion orcs. And the last fight, so they go up and they just pound on him, and he almost dies. And then the warrior from Cathay comes in and stabs him to death with a spear and runs him through. This marked a complete tie. The draw would have been broken if it hadn't been for that one orc who impaled himself. So we get to the end of it, and the elf druid tries to convince the NPC mercenaries that, hey, one of our guys shot that orc to begin with. That guy counts as ours. So I let him do a charisma check. He failed. So it ended as a draw, and money went back to everybody, except for one of the players who actually technically didn't put money down. One of the other players actually put money down for him to get him involved because his character was being apprehensive, because his character actually hadn't met the others yet, because game sessions being different and all that, so this was their first time having their characters together. So the money he got, he paid double, but he didn't get it back because his deal was that all earnings would go to him. So it was just more like a payment. So one of the players actually came out on top in this. And I think that was really hilarious, how he actually came out a little bit ahead. So looking back at that, I really love how that game went. Just how crazy it went really quickly. The amount of just like having to throw together a bunch of orcs, and how fun just seeing them laugh at me, and the pain I was having to go through to playing with 6 NPCs, fighting with a bunch of orcs, and them dealing with how they were dealing with it as well, and coming up with a system really quick to kind of keep things flowing. But also, just the fact that it was a little bit more of a competition. So it wasn't just like about them killing. It's a kill or be killed, win or lose, and if you lose, you die, or you risk dying. It was, well, you may actually lose and you get money, or you don't. It's a matter of how it came out. But they all did share in the profit of killing the orcs. So that was a plus. And I just really remember that game, and I really loved it. So my question to you guys is, have you ever had a game that just went completely out of control because somebody decided to do something like, oh, I don't know, throw down a bet with somebody for a competition to killing orcs? Let me know down in the comments if you've ever had that kind of issue. Anyways, that was the events. So thank you so much for listening to my little reminiscing about some fun old games, and tune in next time. Until then, God bless.